Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we get groovy in 3D. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and I'm just a worm who likes to ride pigs, shoot weird guns, whip my head at weird cows with rocket launchers and super annoying alien creatures. Or at least I think that's what I'm doing. I think so, because this camera that seems to be following me around won't let me see what the hell is happening. This time, of course, I am joined by Jiggylookback, sir. Hello.
There's only one ego for this job, and it's Jiggylookback. Let's go.
Love it, man. Love it. If any of that makes sense to you and there's any kind of clue in your head at sort of mulling around here, you may have guessed that we are playing Earthworm Jim 3D. If you are
the mythical,
the myth, the myth, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Earthworm Jim, and now in 3D on the Nintendo 64. If you are watching this version on YouTube, you'll see that the logo has been popped up beside us. But for anyone that's listening, yes, Earthworm Jim 3D is what was next on the docket. One of the reasons why is because, Jiggy, yourself, you went back and took a pretty deep look at the original two games. Let's talk a little bit about that first, because it kind of set up the set the stage for things. And yeah, go for it, man. What was that experience?
So pleasantly awesome. So I had limited interaction with the Earthworm Jim series before this. I remember playing Earthworm Jim 1. I don't think I ever actually played 2. Excuse me, but I played 1 as a kid on the Genesis. And then I had Earthworm Jim on the Game Boy. I think it was called A Menace to the Galaxy. And that was pretty cool. And then I also had Earthworm Jim 3D. Now, the thing about every single one of those games, I did not beat any of them because they are insanely hard.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that tradition has lived on since the beginning. And Earthworm Jim 3D succeeds in that regard. Okay? Earthworm Jim 1 is probably one of the hardest 2D platformers I have ever played.
It's wild, man.
Brutal.
It's wild. I remember as a kid, I didn't have it for Super Nintendo, but I knew, or maybe they had it for Genesis. It was out for Genesis as well, right?
Oh yeah, that's what I played it on.
Yeah. Okay. So either I played it at a friend's house, I had it on one of the two consoles. I don't remember. I definitely rented it because I was like, this is goofy. It's a cartoon come to life. I love this. You know, all that stuff is very kid friendly with just the way it looks. Whether the gameplay itself, it's another story. But there's no way as a kid. I mean, I don't even remember. I mean, I watched your video and when you were playing through the games, and I was like, I don't even recognize some of these areas because I don't think I ever reached them ever.
Yeah,
because there's no way I would have been able to. Even now, how'd you do it? How'd you do it, man? Like,
I trial and error. I literally like this game. The game's probably about 2 hours, I would say. I don't know. You could probably look it up. It's probably somewhere in the ballpark of
right.
Yeah, but it's so Earthworm Jim 1, trial and error, just literally going through things in the environment. There's only one thing I had to look up because I was absolutely just ticked off. And for my video, I did the Switch Online version. So that is the Genesis version for the original, and then the Super Nintendo for the sequel. Okay. And the Genesis version, on the level down the tubes, you have to get into like these submarine things. And what they don't tell you is there's this little port that has like, if you line up perfectly with it, it shoots oxygen into your tank, and it gives you a lot more time to navigate down these things. Otherwise, it gives you like 20, 30 seconds, right?
Okay.
But it doesn't tell you that. And it's one of those things I went past. I'm like, oh, that looks like something that could put air in it, but I tried to like maneuver around it and it didn't work. So I was like, okay. So I was using the switch rewind function over and over and over to try to perfectly run this as fast as possible to get through the path. But the thing is, if you hit any wall, it bounces. It like ricochets you and it cracks at the same time. So if you bounce like 5 or 6 times, it blows up and you lose. So that I finally got to the point. I'm like, I need to look. How do people beat this? This is impossible. And then they're like, oh, you have to oxygenate it with this thing. I'm like, I tried that. And it was like, line it up here. And I went and lined it up and it did it. So that's my experience with Earthworm Jim 1. It's like that the whole game. You find just like you have to pay attention to the background. You have to pay attention to what's there. And that's what you utilize in some way. Like I got stuck in the what the heck level because there's a jewel sitting there and it looks like something you can interact with, but you have to land on it and run and it like makes it move and then it like teleports you.
Oh,
how would you know that?
I kind
You
of
just gotta
remember
keep
that
trying.
now. Yeah, how would you, if that hasn't been a mechanic that was introduced to you in any way whatsoever or explained that that's what these gems do, that seems like a ridiculous thing to even assume. Like it really does.
It's just that it's that whole trial and error and you're exploring, which I like. I do like it. It was really fun. Overall, I think I gave the game oh gosh, what did I give it? I gave it like a 9 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10 or something. It was pretty high.
Which is fantastic.
I really like it was hard, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. The vibe, the characters, the art, like everything is great. Doug TenNapel did great.
Yeah.
I think it's Tenapoli. I don't know what
TenNapel. I wrote it down. I couldn't pronounce it.
I had to look it up before I made my video, so I pronounced it right. And now I forgot how to pronounce it. But I think it is TenNapel, actually.
Okay.
But moving from Earthworm Jim 1 to Earthworm Jim 2, Earthworm Jim 2 is much more balanced. There's a variety of weapons. The gameplay is a little bit better. Overall, I think the experience in 2 is everything I liked about the first one, less hard and more fun. I put it a step up from that.
I'll take it.
Yeah. And it's still challenging. It's not like it's not challenging. It's just not stupid hard like the first one was.
Right. Well, that's good.
It was cool.
That's good.
So that one, I highly recommend Earthworm Jim 2 for people that want to dabble in Earthworm Jim. Do 2.
Just do 2.
And
so
did
you have as much trouble?
Go back to 1.
Yeah. Did you have as much trouble getting through some like segments? Like I know you said it wasn't quite as challenging, but there was still a challenge there. Because when I'm looking up, like you're saying that like the gem thing is a perfect example of that. All this trial, was there as much trial and error in 2, or is that one of the reasons why it was like more fun?
No, there wasn't. I mean, there's an element of puzzle solving.
Okay.
But not like where you're unclear of where to go, like in Earthworm Jim 1. You know, you might have had those moments where you had to explore a little bit more. You had to really think outside the box, but you never had those moments in 1 where you're just like frustrated, like what am I missing?
You're running in circles and yeah. Okay,
and
so that's
I
good.
had that constantly in 1 and 2. I don't think I had it at all, but I love 2. Like 2 was so much fun.
Great.
And then coming off that, I was like, man, I'm gonna make a video of 3. And I really want to play this. Like, I never beat this as a child. I never beat this, and I want to do it. I want to do it.
Yeah.
And so when you were like, what game should we play? I'm like, I know what we should play. I'm on an Earthworm Jim high. Let's do 3 and let's do it.
And you know what? I said, this is one of the games that I have zero experience with. I just know it exists. That's it. I've seen the 2 different or 3 different covers that they released in Europe and North America. And I was like, I know what this game is, but I never put any hands on it. Yep. So if anyone wants to, and then as a kid, I can imagine it would be difficult, which we'll get into.
I never got past the second boss.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I would probably remember that too. We'll talk about the boss. The bosses will be a decent part of this discussion. I assure you, everyone. So if anyone wants to play those 2 and wants to watch your video, first, if you want to play through them, first Earthworm Jim on how long to beat. Completionist, which is, I guess, getting everything, 5 hours. So that's the extreme level of it. So, 4 probably on average. And then for 2, it's about 4.5. So they're not hugely long games, which for games that were on Genesis and SNES kind of makes sense. That's sort of the average. Earthworm Jim 3D, if anyone wants to get into it and wants to get the sort of middle of the line main plus extras, which is also like Well, again, we'll get into it soon. Pretty much completing the entire game, every last little bit of it is about 12 hours. So that's the average what people have put in how long to beat to say this is what it took me to do this. So significant difference, 3 times different
Yeah.
across the board, which it's the N64. It's a new console. It's a new type of
Yeah.
game. It's really not the same type of game at all, I would say. At least from my memory anyway. So that's just to see where we are as far as how things are going here with these games. But
I want to say something, and I want to say this right now. Earthworm Jim 3D has a fatal flaw, a fatal sin, if you will, a sin that is unforgivable, okay?
okay.
But it's not what you think. It's probably not what you hear, and I will save it till the end.
Oh wow.
So
All
stay
of
tuned.
all of that is to say that you'll save it to the end?
Yes.
Oh my god. All right.
I will not
Jeez.
say it until the end.
Wow. Okay. Tease ahead or what? My God. Okay. So I'm gonna do a little bit of history with the game, and that means we will pull up the soundboard because, of course, we will. And that is,
I'm learning.
yeah, that's right, everybody. We're going back. We're busting out the history books. I'm gonna do this again because I just want to hear it again and do it properly. Let's bust out the history books, everyone.
I'm learning.
We're going to November of 1999. All right. And we're also going to eat cow, which is funny. I think I heard that once or twice in this game, or maybe it was just in the trailer. But the eat cow is actually from from the, I think it was from Sculptor's Cut,
Fighter.
from Clay Fighter. I
Yeah.
think it was from Sculptor's Cut. I can't remember which one's he in again. I don't know. I kind of blanked it out in my mind.
He's in both. He's in both.
Oh, he was in both. That's right. Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Oh my god. That game, this game, it's just, my mind is a
Too
mess.
much.
Too much Earthworm Jim, especially for you. Okay, so
Nah, I love Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim 3D began shortly after Earthworm Jim 2, the development for it. And what I wrote here was that the game had a drawn-out development cycle, so much so that at times it was believed it would become vaporware, which if anyone doesn't know what that is in the sort of development cycle and gaming world, it basically means it would just disappear. Poof, poof, everyone would stop working on it. The assets would pretty much be erased, or however that would happen at that time, and it would just basically be never heard of or seen again. So little would have been worked on it at some points that maybe, there's nothing to even save anyway, other than a few code lines or something. It was initially going to be coming out for the PlayStation as well, but in early 1997, which I think was just a few months into development, that went by the wayside, and they said this is strictly going to be a Nintendo 64 game. Now, one of the things that I want to definitely make sure we're talking about here is that the original two were made by, is it Shiny Entertainment? Is that the right?
Shiny Entertainment.
Shiny
yep.
Entertainment made the first two, and they were purchased by Interplay. Interplay was a pretty big company in the mid to late 90s as far as, purchasing studios and developers, and mostly a publisher, I would say. If you look up their games, we definitely played a few of them, and will continue to do that. But they purchased Shiny. Within that process, interestingly enough, Shiny said, I don't want to make any more sequels. They were just not in the mood to make sequels anymore. So that, on top of now being owned by someone else, someone new came in and created it. Now, my question to you is, we'll get into the details, obviously. Do you think if Shiny made this game, it would at least feel different? I don't know what it would play like. It's hard to say. But like with the tone, with the characters, things like that. Because that's, like you said, the look of things in the first two. That's a big draw to Earthworm Jim. Just the sort of attitude of it, the humor of it. That's one of the reasons why Earthworm Jim is so popular, I think. I don't know.
Hey, let me tell you. I think this game has a lot of those elements. That's one of the redeeming qualities. I actually think they got the character of Earthworm Jim, the animations, like some of the things, like even the way he climbs on the ropes and the way he like pulls himself up. It's straight up ripped from the other two games. They translated it pretty well. I think maybe the worlds aren't as
well realized.
They aren't all equal. I think there's some worlds that do a pretty good job of capturing an Earthworm Jim cartoony-esque feel, but then there's some worlds that are really big and just empty, and even though they're not inherently bad, they're just empty.
Right.
Right? There's not
Right.
much to them.
Right.
But it's one of those things I was pleased with, and I think the TV show might have come out before this.
Yes, it did. It came out 2
Yeah.
years before this, because the development of this, one of the reasons why I wanted to really make sure I mentioned the development of it is because it started to be developed just before the show. It was like the sort of character aesthetics and the voice lines and sort of some of the enemies and stuff were supposed to be coming from the cartoon, but it took so
Yeah.
long and it was such a disaster to create this game that it came out 2 years from when the show began, and the show didn't run that long anyways. So it was kind of like, kind of felt like not an afterthought, but the development did not go well enough for it to be, a sort of shoulder to shoulder release or even close to that to the show.
It's interesting because I put out a little tweet that we were playing this game, and I was excited about it, and I was like, yeah, well, Earthworm Jim 3D, and people started commenting.
Is that what your tweets are?
Yeah, blah, 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 Earthworm
Blah,
Jim
blah,
3D.
blah, 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 Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, and people were kind of surprisingly, I expected everybody to be kind of just negative because this game has a reputation for being bad. But everybody was kind of mixed. Like some people were
Okay.
like, "Oh, I want to go back and finish this game. It's just really hard."
Okay.
Which is a sentiment I heard over and over and over. But a lot, like some people said that it took too much inspiration from the cartoon, which I thought was interesting because I
Okay.
like the cartoon.
Okay.
And I mean, as a kid, I haven't watched it recently. I don't know how well it holds up, but I liked the cartoon and I liked the aesthetic of it. And I thought it was pretty Earthworm Jim. And the voice of Earthworm Jim is the same guy that voices Homer Simpson.
Right. Right.
So you get a lot oil or whatever it is. But it's good. I mean, I think the overall like aesthetic animations, especially of Jim himself, were right on for the money. Like even his movement, the way he runs, the way he jumps, the roll, it feels Earthworm Jim. So I'm happy to say that's a good thing they nailed.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. I asked that question previously just because I was like, do you think that would matter? I think if the developers, which was VIS Entertainment, did anything correctly or did, not anything correctly because it's not all terrible, but if they did end up doing something right, or top of the list of what they did right was most of that characterization of Jim himself, I would say. I think that's fair to say. And
I mean, playing right now, this is straight up from Earthworm Jim 2. There's segments where you inflate your head and fly up. That's ripped right from that, and it's there. It's Earthworm Jim.
It is the creepiest representation of him in this entire game. It looks so weird. It looks his head, the way that they animate his head. Look, there's only so much you can do. I understand that, but oh my God, does it look like a clown? Like it looks like if you're scared of clowns, you'll be scared of this. It's that kind of feel. It's some sort of like this underlying creep to it. I don't really understand it, but yeah. So VIS Entertainment made this game. They did a decent job with that part, like we're saying. They also have an N64 game as well. It is the Tom and Jerry in Fists of Fury. So that's a game that we'll hit at some point. So they also made that game, which is sort of like a mini fighting game of Tom and Jerry, from what I understand.
It's like that Powerpuffs game too. Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's
okay.
Yeah, it's like a I don't know how you like a 3D beat 'em up. It's not quite a fighting game, but it's like you're in a room and you throw stuff at each other. And
I've seen a couple videos on screen. It's like, oh, you're in a kitchen and you're like throwing pots and pans at each other and stuff, which it sounds like a charming idea. So I'm interested at least.
There's some charm. The Powerpuff Girls one was pretty fun, actually.
Really? Okay.
If I remember right. Yeah. I mean, it's not good, but it's not like, it's just it's such a goofy concept. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. It like you can do something with it, right?
Yeah. Multiplayer.
Yeah. So what else was I gonna say? Oh, so before we get into like the game itself more specifically, I want to say that the series designer David Perry and what was the other guy's name? It was Doug
Doug Tenapple.
Tenapel. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tenapple.
Tenapple. Yeah, that seems
It's either
right.
Tenaple or Tenapple. It's one of the two. Pick your poison. Caramel. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Tomato. Yeah. Okay, so David Perry was the series designer. He sold the rights to the company or to the rights of Earthworm Jim, and then they were sort of able to do whatever they wanted to here, which is why some of the reasons why the cartoon looks a little different and why the game looks a little different. It just is what it is. In an interview from 2005, the two of them both said that they went to VIS to talk to the company and sort of like almost like I don't know if they were consultants, didn't say that, but they spoke to them and they said they were very disappointed with the way things looked in this. So I think that that sets the stage for the rest of our discussion with Earthworm Jim 3D. Jiggy, I'll go to you first. Overall thoughts without going into sort of like major details, and then we'll sort of break down aspects of the game. What did you think of Earthworm Jim 3D?
So better than I thought I would.
Okay.
So I went in with this remembering it was stupid hard, remembering sort of the base gameplay and everything, and I expected it to be bad, I guess.
Okay.
Like not horrible, like it's playable, but I expected it to be really bad, and
but
maybe it's because
that's also what you heard too, right? You've been hearing that since you were younger too. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe it's because I was playing the other Earthworm Jim games that I was playing this, and underneath, like I acknowledged that things got frustrating, right? There's a lot of stuff that is wrong with this game, but underneath, I was having fun.
Okay.
There was something about this game that I was like, there's some solid gameplay going on here when things are working right, you know? Which makes me sad because I wanted it to feel like that the whole, I wanted to enjoy every moment, but it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to love you and you show me these little glimmers, but then you just, it's like
it's not all there.
It's not all there.
It's not all there. I think I'm on the same page. I think the overall broad feeling for me is that I think most of the time the personality of Earthworm Jim works, or you could have times like this when I'm playing and I'm trying to shoot this guy in a ledge and I'm just like, why is this impossible? Like stupid little, it's probably just me. Probably just me not really reading what the physics are supposed to be, whatever. But
can I say, I also think this game feels almost like a beta run, or like it's not finished. It feels like it's maybe 80% complete, and they still had to do things like add some things to the world, fine tune some gameplay mechanics, but they were like forced to push it out. It's giving that vibe.
Even though they were not forced because it took forever for them to make it. Yeah, I hear you.
It's the vibe it gets.
You're right.
It just feels unfinished.
Yeah, it does. And you know what? There's many aspects as to why it feels that way. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the gameplay feels annoying because of, I don't know. It's not the weapons. The weapons in Earthworm Jim are always kind of charming and fun and goofy. I don't mind that, but there's aspects like this moment that I'm playing, if you're watching the YouTube version, where like little things like the bullets are so small that some of the enemies are shooting at you that you can't even see them. Okay. So how am I supposed to avoid it? Like I
can tell you, one of the biggest problems with this game is the enemy AI. When it shoots at you, it's nearly impossible to dodge. You can dodge. In fact, you naturally feel like you want to run, or you want to jump, or you want to do something. No, that doesn't work. The enemy bullet will home in on you.
Oh my God.
No matter what you do. The only way to dodge it is to tap B and duck.
The worst.
That's it.
Yeah. And some of the bullets don't home in on you. Like there are definitely a few that do. And those are obviously the worst culprits for sure. But yeah, even the ones that don't, you're just like, wait, well, how did that thing even hit me? Where did that thing come from? You have to press B in order to dodge under them, or to dodge to the side of them. It's the only way you can do it, and it's It doesn't make sense.
It needs to be said, the bats in the horror worlds are the worst culprit of this.
That's exactly what I was going to
By
say.
far.
They are
By far.
it's I don't know that I don't think I have a video of it. I don't think I was recording when I played that level, but I don't know if I ever dodged those at all. Because
it's very hard.
do you have to like make them run into a wall or something? It's
No,
so
you have to literally just time your duck at the precise time, because they will shoot at you and it homes in so fast. And it almost will like, so if you run and it shoots at you and you somehow get by, it will literally turn course and come back and hit you.
Yeah.
It's like that level of homing.
Or you jump off
off
a set of stairs, or you sort of jump off like a cliff kind of thing. It follows you down.
Oh, yeah, it follows you. It goes faster. It like and the worst part is those enemies, you can beat them.
Yeah.
Right? They're not hard to beat, but when you beat them, they spawn back really fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you walk back in that same area like a minute later and they're back.
They're back. They're back fully. There's a couple of points too or at least one point where you have to defeat all of them in order to like open a door and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a common mechanic. Totally fine. I'm okay with that part. But then there's like 2 or 3 of them coming at you and they take off like, 10% each time you get hit. And it's like, this is ridiculous. And you have only a certain amount of lives. It's just, those parts of the game are why I think it still fails. But I didn't completely dislike my time with the game either. Like, I don't think that it is the worst game. I don't think it is absolutely terrible 3D experience. It is just, there's aspects of it that just don't really makes sense. The AI of it is kind of ridiculous.
It's unforgiving.
It's so unforgiving. But then there's some aspects where I can't remember which stage it was specifically, where it's a lot of traversal. It was pretty simple traversal where you're going through like bookcases and stuff that's in like a haunted house or something like that.
Oh yeah, Poltergeist.
Yeah, the Poltergeist one. I thought that was kind of fun because like, oh, this is a cool environment. You're traveling through like this giant library essentially. The traversal's not amazing, but I was like, there's no annoying enemies that are swarming at me. I'm able to sort of figure out what I need to do, defeat a couple enemies on my way up to up the tower, so to speak. And that's what this game should have been, is more of that and less of these stupid, annoying aliens that don't shut up and home in on you with their bullets.
Yeah.
And have these stages. Like, I hated this level. This stage, which I think was one of the first few anyways, I couldn't stand it. It was just like, there's a trapped Elvis that makes no fucking sense. There's...
Okay, wait. But the Elvis, I don't like what they did with him, but he himself is pretty funny. He literally, when he's walking down the hallway, all he says is, I'm the king, I'm the king, I'm the king.
What was
and it made me laugh.
I think I have the video. Like, yeah, this is the video I have of it too. Yeah. So he just like, he kind of walks, like he looks fun. Like he looks funny. He's got, the voice and stuff. I can't remember when you start the level. He's like,
so I bet you hated this.
This part, what? This is my first and only playthrough of this part. I did it in 2 shots, I think, maybe 3.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
But
It wasn't great, but I didn't hate it. I actually didn't hate it because I knew what I needed to do.
This particularly reminded me. It's a callback to a level in Earthworm Jim 1, For Pete's Sake.
Okay.
Where he goes along the pathway and you have to whip him so he jumps. And you have to protect him from other things, right?
Yeah.
So this was a very Earthworm Jim thing. I didn't think it was very fun, but I was like, yeah, okay, it makes sense that it's there, right?
Right.
It's
okay.
I'm one of those people that gets antsy. I could not be patient, so I'm like, I hit him too soon several times. Even though I acknowledge that I know I'm hitting him too soon, I'm like, oh no, why did I do that? Like before, like as I'm hitting the button. But it's really not that hard. It's not very long either.
No.
And it's kind of funny, the end result. So
yeah, the end result's kind of, so I think the reason why I made it through, if you see this video and as you're watching it, Jiggy, as I play it here, the enemy AI did not respond to me going around the corner. So I could shoot them without them having to shoot him. So I was able to move ahead a few steps, shoot them without them really causing any problems, and then just focus on just whipping him over the corners that you need to make him jump. And because I was playing with headphones, so I don't know if it's just because of headphones, but I could hear that they were just around the corner.
Oh, nice.
So I would just shoot. I didn't expect them to be there. I would shoot around the corner and hope my bullets bounce off the wall to hit them. And sometimes it did. And then I would clear the enemies. And I think that's why. So not only are the enemies annoying sometimes, they're sometimes very stupid. So it's weird.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, very inconsistent. It
depends on what you're doing.
Depends on the level, depends on what you're doing. I don't know. I think that like largely I think I was okay with this game, but I think there's a lot of elements that, like we said, I just don't I don't quite understand. So let's talk about the sort of it's sort of a collectathon, I guess you could call it. Like there are a lot of things you need to collect. So if we want to compare it to a series that we really enjoy, Banjo-Kazooie, for example, there are the Jiggies that you collect, which are sort of like the quote unquote main items that you collect that allow you to.
Cow udders.
In this, it's a cow udder. Funny.
Golden cow
udders. It's funny. You know, I get it. It's Earthworm Jim. It's goofy. And then there is the setting of this game, which is Earthworm Jim has lost his marbles. So he's gone crazy. He's lost his mind.
He's in a coma, I think, right?
He's in a coma, and you are in his head as Earthworm Jim, collecting his marbles. Comparatively to Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, it is, instead of the musical notes, you are getting his marbles. There are 100 per stage. You need to get a certain amount of them in order to get to a certain like status, which are all goofy names that they come up with, which I appreciated that part of it.
Yeah, like you're as smart as a spoon or something stupid like that. I don't know if that's an actual one, but
random
it's stuff like that.
Yeah, just random stuff, which I thought was fun. It's like, oh, it pops up and, oh, you need to be as smart as a spoon or whatever it was in order to unlock this area. I was like, okay, I get that. So there's 100 in each area, and those are the things you're collecting. And that's it. Certain amount of them to get to the next stage or next area of stages.
Yeah.
And there are a number of different worlds that you end up playing through as well.
I just want to say, so the thing about Earthworm Jim is he has 4 brains. Okay.
Yes, right.
So he has 4 brains being an earthworm. You play as his super ego, is what it says. So you're his ego inside his head, and you're going into each one of his brains and defeating a boss within that brain that's causing an issue. And so each one, the first one is memory, the second one is happiness, the third one is fear, and the last one is fantasy.
Yeah.
So they're sort of emotions, but then they throw memory and fantasy, so they throw that out the window.
Yeah.
So it's a little confusing, but I guess that's what each one of his brains handles, and there's not room for anything else.
And no room for anything else. So I like that setup.
It's funny.
As ridiculous as it is, so what? It's Earthworm Jim. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I like that, and it also gives you an excuse to go into different areas and worlds, if you want to call them that, and do something goofy with what happiness is or what fear is. Fear has like a horror type theme to it and stuff. Makes sense. Yeah, it seems kind of simple, but I think it makes sense. At least you're going to an area that feels different. So I like that.
Yeah, there's a certain, it sucks because
yeah, it's great, but it sucks.
Well, it sucks because these worlds, like, they have so much charm to them.
Yes.
They really draw you in with every individual world. It's like, wow, I love what they're going for, but they just have some way that they muck it up.
Yeah.
It's just like the first world, it's themed like military, and it's chickens. It's the chickens versus the bovines, which are cows. And it's pretty funny. I mean, the first world is definitely probably my least favorite in the whole game. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not my least favorite, but it's just really I was going to say unforgettable. Unmemorable. It's very forgettable. Like, once you're past it, I didn't think about it at all until just now, and I'm like, yeah, it was just kind of like green boxes and empty and bland and boring.
It was definitely the
The
most bland one for sure.
Yeah, you're going room to room, and it's like they tried to give you an element of like you're in the hen house kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like once you meet a character, you're like, oh, cool, there's something here, but otherwise it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
The second level, I think, is a little bit better. It definitely has more character. You're outside. You have to go into the cow's like facility and get the cleaver, which is the best weapon in the game.
Yeah, it's
and
cool.
You slice them up, and that is dope.
That's
I
fun.
love that.
I didn't expect, like, I used it, like, usually when I picked up a new weapon or whatever, got a new weapon out of the vending machine thing, I pressed it a couple times just to try it and see what it did. I was like, oh, cool. It kind of, does the spin and boomerangs back to you. Oh, there you go. As smart as a spleen. That's one of the early
That's
ones.
what he just got, yeah.
So, like, does it make any sense? No, but who cares? So that's an example of what it is. So I did the cleaver thing was interesting. I was like, oh, cool. I kind of like boomerangs back. I like that idea. That's kind of fun. And then, yeah, and then you go up to the bovines or the cows, and it just slices their head off. And I was like,
It's
whoa,
awesome.
I did not expect that.
It's very satisfying.
It's very-
like, it's one of those moments you're like, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was good. Yeah, that was
I
one of
think
those standouts.
the thing about Earthworm Jim, he has his base weapon, his ray gun, right?
Yeah.
And it functions just like it would in the other Earthworm Jims. It just shoots really fast. It's like kind of a short range, hits fast. It's cool. Mid range, I'd say, not short range, but mid range.
Yeah.
But
But
and then you also have,
it's very weak. Just like it, like
Yeah, but
some
it hits
enemies will die
fast, so-
in 2 hits of the whip of your head. Other ones, and those same ones will take 100 bullets or something. It's kind of weird. I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
me. But anyway, sorry.
And
Continue.
yeah, well, I was just gonna say you have the whip too.
Yeah.
Which is you take your head out and use it as a whip, just like classic Earthworm Jim.
Yeah.
So it's very faithful to that.
Yep.
You have a crouch and a super jump, and you have a new roll mechanic, which I almost like. People that hear me talk, compulsive form of movement in a game.
Oh yeah.
I really wanted it to be the roll, but it wasn't quite nailing it. It wasn't it's kind of slow. It's like sometimes it would be my form of movement, my preferred one, but I found myself just jumping a lot and like doing the little helicopter, which doesn't work like it does in the old Earthworm Jim games. The old Earthworm Jim games, well, I guess 1, because in 2 you don't have the copter, but in the first one, you use your head as a copter and you could keep tapping the button and it would keep coptering as you fall.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a single jump with a brief copter, and
It's a very simple or small double jump. It doesn't elevate you any higher, but it does help you a little bit on some of the jumping stuff, and sometimes it's completely necessary. So it could save you 100%, and it definitely did for me sometimes. But it's not enough. I feel like it should last a little bit longer. I think they're trying to give him a little bit of weight, I think is what they're trying to do with that, where it's like, oh, don't rely on it too much or anything like that. But I think it needed a little bit more. So
you're traversing all these with just those basic moves.
Yeah.
That's
it.
That's it.
And you don't really you don't learn anything else, do you? I don't think.
Nope, you don't learn anything else other than you get different weapons in pretty much every stage.
Yeah,
and some of the weapons are creative, but I mean, at the end of the day, they just kind of do the same thing for the most part. The cleaver is really the only one that feels truly unique.
That one, and the one in the alien level where it bounces off walls is, it's fun.
Yeah, I suppose that gives you a little something.
It's a
the
little
chicken. The chicken one is it's kind of a sniper mode, and it shoots. It's funny. It shoots an egg, but they go quick, and I guess they do home in on enemies too. But there's a mushroom that functions pretty much the same way in the first level.
Right.
There's the groovy gun in the horror ones. That's it shoots
musical notes. At like speakers for some reason. I don't know, whatever. I guess speakers are not immune to music. I don't know why.
Yeah. There's rocket missiles they just look like rockets, but they're pretty much the same as the eggs.
Yeah, they don't do anything special. Maybe they're stronger maybe against some enemies, but that's about it. And again, I think the personality of these weapons, of these areas and stuff, it's there. It just still feels a little bit not fully cooked, if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
You know, like there's something about it where I see the idea. It's a fun idea. The execution doesn't feel like it's fully there,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And I think the main thing, it's the levels for me,
Yeah.
because they're so bland. Like the one that you're playing right now, which is the cheese world,
Yeah, it's
right?
early. It's the second
It's
or third place you can go into.
I'd
Yeah.
actually say it's arguably one of the better ones because it's got a lot to do. Like the other half that you were just in, where with Elvis, is not good.
Yeah, that's the
It's
one I didn't like. Yeah,
that's
the
the
one
one
I
that's
didn't
bad.
like. Yeah.
This one, the other half, where you're exploring Lord of the Fries. That's what
Oh,
this
that's
one's
what it
called.
is. Yeah.
And it's got charm. It's got kind of a lot of stuff to do. And the thing I noticed why I think I like this one better, I won't say it's inherently much smaller, but it feels smaller and denser.
Mm,
Okay, which I think would probably help a lot of the other levels, because
right. Sure.
there's a lot of levels. The worst levels, in my opinion, are the last two.
I agree. I totally agree.
The
Totally agree.
last two are Western themed in the fantasy world. They are so big and so empty. You have to go one section to another section to another section to another section to another section, and there's not much in between. And they constantly make you slow with rope climbing constantly.
Right.
And rope climbing in itself isn't bad. It's just every single section has its own climbing segment, and you have to fight these stupid guys that pop out of a porta potty that are a funny enemy. You want to like them, but they make you fight the same enemy like 15 times, and it's just the same rinse and repeat thing. It's not hard. It's not difficult. It's just tedious, and I
That
it
doesn't
just
that
it
does it's not a
pulls you out of
recipe.
it.
Yeah, it's not recipe for fun. It's just an excuse to do something.
Yeah,
And like that doesn't
it's uh,
that's not what fun is. Like just
it's
because you're
so
doing something
it's
doesn't mean it's fun.
yeah, it's so disappointing because you get these glimpses of, wow, this gameplay is actually pretty fun. It's simple, but it's fun. And like you get the cleaver, you get a bunch of the cow enemies coming at you, and you're rolling, you're ducking, you're shooting them out. I'm like, that was great.
Yeah.
That was great. And then they can't capture that again.
It's weird, right? Because what you're saying is absolutely true. I'm on the same page. There's something about like when there's an open space and there's not much to do, sort of in any game, really. It's almost like, oh, it's too simple, right? But there's something about the simplicity of the areas that are a little bit more dense that makes these areas like we're watching right now in the first, like I would say, third of the game, that make those stages better.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be overly complex, but even if it's just there's this really strange balance that they just don't quite hit. And I think that's this from start to finish. It's there. There's a couple levels, like you said, like we agree. The glimpses are there, but as far as all the way through, I think maybe you get that about half or a third of the way through this game, or in a third or half of this game, you get that. The rest of the way, it just feels annoying sometimes. And you know, I got a handle on some of the mechanics in the game. I got a handle on how to traverse a little bit better, but then it'll throw an element at you like a traversal section or a bunch of enemies where it's like, well, so how do I use what I've learned and perfected in this way? This level,
Yeah.
this stage or this area of this stage feels completely ridiculous. I am at a part right now that
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me, where you have to defeat a couple of enemies. Maybe I did something wrong. I don't know. You have to defeat a couple of enemies that's holding a key card to get into a next area. Great. I defeated those robots. I got the key card. But to get to the door of that area, I needed to do what I did in a very specific order that I didn't know I needed to do.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I had to look it up. I don't recall exactly if this is a particular area that I had to look it up, but it made no sense. It made no sense.
I agree. I did the exact same thing. The only difference is, I did not look it up. I came up with a creative solution.
Okay. So,
And my creative solution
yeah,
was the gap from the one area that you can stand on to the other was smaller than the gap between that little can and the area you're standing on. So I went in, just took a hit, tanked a hit, and it bounced me out over to the other side.
So I did that in some elements too. So I think we were probably had a similar idea. I just couldn't quite pull it off, maybe is what it was. So and this and another area that does a very similar thing is this one stage where, again, if you're watching the video version, you can see it. You pick up these cans that make Jim fart. Funny. I mean, it's funny for the first like
It's awesome.
4 times, and then after that, I'm like, okay, I'm done hearing farts. But
I could listen to the farts. They didn't bother me. I enjoyed this part. I think it was just challenging.
I think I did this like 8 times. I fucking lost it at one point. I'm like, I don't understand. I know I have to do this. And I think if this video that I'm playing right now, it gets it. I don't even know if this was a successful run to me, but I think I ended up, this was the last one I needed in this area. So I'm like, I need to get it. Like, I know I need this. I know I can do, I've done everything else. I can do this. And then at one point I try and do a shortcut. Yeah. It's like this really long traversal section. I do a shortcut and I make the jump. And again, if you're watching right now, the camera gets stuck and I cannot move the camera so I could see where I am. It would not let me move from this area unless I went to a first person view, and I was not able to take that shortcut. The camera in the game got completely confused.
The second biggest sin, the camera.
The camera is absolutely what we have to talk about, because you can control it with the C buttons, left and right. There's only one part of it that worked for me. It didn't always work, which is why it's frustrating. But the camera gets stuck so much.
Yes.
On the environment. And
it does.
Not only does it get stuck on the environment, but it gets in the way of Earthworm Jim. If you are in a tight space and the camera's in front of his face, he will literally walk into the camera, and the camera is as if it's a wall. Like there's an actual physical camera in front of him, and you have to find a way to turn the camera around him, which sometimes in those spots is not possible. And it's just like,
bro, this exact stage, I also had a major camera issue. It was thankfully at the bottom.
Okay.
But I was trying to get marbles on one of the lower platforms.
Yep.
And I shot up. The camera swooped under so I could see Earthworm Jim like through the grates. I could move him around. It refused to let me collect the marbles. Like I was on them. It wouldn't let me collect them. And I was like, what the heck? What is going on? It just wouldn't let me. And then I like ran off the platform purposely, redid it. Camera was fine.
Yeah. And
then I collected them. I was like, wow, that was so dumb. But this camera, because it's so annoying, because there's moments where it works.
Yeah.
And then for every moment it works, you get 2 that don't. And then you get really frustrated. And then it's like, well, hey, I'm going to work now. And then you're happy. And then it does it again. It's just so, it constantly wants to get close to Jim. Mm-hmm. Okay. They give you the option of a close zoom, a medium zoom, a long, like far away zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fantastic. I'm never going to use any of the zooms except for the long one.
100%. It's
like, there's no reason.
By default, I'm always pressing down C in order to make it the furthest away.
And it feels like every room it wants to push it back in by you.
Yeah. I think when you enter a new area that the game quote unquote has to load, it goes back to the default, which I think is the medium range one, which in some levels, okay, maybe if you forget or what, okay, it's manageable, but yeah, you pretty much need to do the furthest away. It is, again, at times it works. And the only thing that I think that this game does smart, which not every 3D game of this era does, is I think it's when you hold on to the R button, the camera will be behind Jim constantly.
Yeah.
I like that because that feels
I use that too.
Yeah, because it feels like a 3D action game as close as it can to a more modern feel. And sometimes it works and it's great, but it doesn't always let you do it. And it's not perfect because the camera still gets stuck on a bunch of stuff. So
it's almost like when you get to about 3/4 into the game, like the third world, you really kind of master the camera. And it's a combination of switching your views and hitting the R button.
Yeah.
It's you naturally feel this like way to maneuver it. You're like, okay, I know I'm gonna need a little bit more. I'm gonna zoom out a bit. Oh, I know it's gonna be wonky around this corner, so I'm gonna hold R
Yeah.
while it so it locks in.
You know its
It's
personality.
like yeah, you figure it out, and it becomes its own character you have to control.
Yeah. Like,
But
ugh.
yeah,
It's just I think a camera in this era is difficult. It was for a
yeah,
very long time. It's not perfect in most 3D action games and platformers and collectathons and stuff. I totally get it. You know, some work, some don't, but it doesn't need to be its own mechanic. It just should just be like it's
yeah,
like you're saying, the way you're describing it sounds like a gameplay mechanic. It
yeah,
should, and it shouldn't be,
yeah,
right? It should just be at least mostly functional part of how you traverse. And most of the time, it doesn't feel like that's what it is.
yeah.
So
Nobody would say in Mario 64, "Oh, I can't control the camera. Oh, it's being weird here." Like it's just natural, and they did such a good job of the way you feel it. Same with Banjo Kazooie, you just feel it, right?
you feel it, and it works the way that you assume it would, you know,
Yeah,
and
and it's like
that's good. That's just good design. That's what that is, right? That's
yeah,
just good design. So
and it's like Jim sometimes feels good,
yeah,
and then it frustrates you.
yeah, and then it frustrates you.
And I
So
think to segue, the
let's
most frustrating parts. No, this is not the fatal sin. Not yet. We're getting there.
okay. I thought this
But
was. I thought this was what it was going to be. But
I
okay.
thought
Okay.
I knew you thought it was going to be the boss fights.
Okay.
It's not the boss fights.
All
That's
right.
not the fatal sin.
I'm literally okay. I'm shifting in my seat. I'm literally at the edge of my seat now. So
Okay, let's
let's
talk about
talk.
the boss fights.
We're gonna talk about the boss fights. So the boss fights are one in each world or each part of Jim's mind, and they're all enemies. Some of them are enemies that you've seen before. Like the one I'm showing right now. He is what's his name? I always
Oh
forget.
yeah. Okay, so here I'm gonna bail you out here.
Please.
So all of the enemies are classic Earthworm Jim enemies. You have Psychro is the first one.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, not the main one.
I know when he came up
'cause
first,
he-
I was like, "Are we facing him like 7 times?" Like,
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be a repeat, but no, it's
Yeah.
him. And then you get Fatty Roswell, the alien.
right.
You get Professor Monkey for a head,
Yep.
and
And
Bob the Goldfish, and number 4, which is his cat. He literally rides the cat in
Yeah.
the mud. And then there's a final boss. Have you gotten this? Did you get this?
Nope.
Okay. I didn't either. I know what it is. I knew what it was before.
Okay.
And I didn't get it for a very particular reason that is going off of the fatal sin. But the final boss is actually Earthworm Kim, which is Jim's feminine side trying to take over the body. And so you have, yeah, it's really funny.
Oh my God.
He, I don't know, comes out on a pig, and it's just Earthworm Jim with like a blonde wig.
Okay. Again,
It's so funny.
I'm gonna pull up. I found a video earlier that had all the boss fights on it, so I'm gonna pull that up, and I'm definitely gonna watch that while we talk about it. We're definitely gonna pull it up. So okay. So just to describe very briefly what the mechanic of the boss fights is that you are riding around on a pig, for example, on some of them at least, and using it basically as a skateboard.
No, you're on a pig in all of them.
Is it a pig on all of them? Oh, I don't know why I thought
Yeah,
it was...
you're literally riding a pig in mud on all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very slippery, it's very awkward.
It moves forward on its own. You don't have to press
yes.
anything to move forward.
It's a horrible boss design.
Yeah.
Like if this was a mini game, it would have been fine. But they literally rinse and repeat this for every single boss, and it actually gets easier. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, I thought
Like
the second one was the worst. I thought the
second boss is the hardest.
Yeah.
It gets easier. The third boss, Professor Monkey for a head, I think his level layout, it's different. right? And so the first
Right.
two are very similar,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the third level is different, and it just feels easier to connect and get the marbles. And I think a lot of that has to do with there's hills on the first two, and when you hit those hills, you go flying up in the air. It's very frustrating. You're trying to collect 100 marbles that are the enemy is also trying to collect 100 marbles, and they're shooting missiles at you constantly, and those missiles are just like every other projectile in the game that gets thrown at you. They home in on it. They're very hard to dodge. Your only way to dodge is to jump at the precise time, which is very hard with the camera. It gets very difficult. You think you're gonna like avoid it, because I played tons of, trust me, I played tons of N64 games, tons of platformers, and you think you're gonna dodge this missile, and it still hits you.
Yeah.
It's almost like it hits your pig, it hits you. Where I was trying to just avoid it as Jim. So I don't know, maybe that's the hitbox is messed up. I don't know.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're onto something. And also what adds to the annoyance of it is that like really what I think the mechanic should be, instead of you having 100 marbles and them having 0, which makes some of these battles last way too long.
Agreed.
Like so, I think honestly even like the first one or the second, I think I did it for like 20 minutes. I'm sorry, but that's just too long, especially with the mechanic that it is. I think what it should have been, my suggestion, in case they're listening, is like
Mm-hmm.
is make the marbles your health bar, so that if you end up hitting them enough times with the missiles, or they hit you enough times with the missiles, then maybe you can chip down the life down to 0, and then it's done because you've gotten your enemy down to 0, or you're down to 0. Because every time you collect a marble, it adds to your health. Or give everybody 50, give both of you 50, and whoever gets down to 0 loses, and boom, you've beat the boss. That's all. And every rocket
Yeah.
hit is worth 10 or 15, and just sort of do the math that way. I hate the
Yeah.
fact that these things lasted so long, because like you said, the way it controls on top of the camera just creates honestly a pretty disastrous experience most of the time, I would say.
Yeah, you have to it constantly puts you in the situation like if you hit them, they drop a big bundle of marbles
And so
right
do
in front
you.
of them.
Yeah.
And you have to do these really tight little turns to collect all of them. And as you're doing that, they're shooting missiles at you
Yeah.
because the AI is insane.
Yeah.
So it's just it's overly difficult. It didn't need to be that hard. It does get easier after the second boss. The second boss was peak. I didn't really have a problem with Bob the Goldfish, but his level is a little different again with hills.
Yeah.
Maybe I just got lucky with that, but
Well, sometimes I
it's
think what
just not good, and
yeah.
it doesn't relate at all to any other part of the game.
I
You're
know.
never riding this pig other than that.
He only shows
I
up.
don't get it.
He only shows up at this point, and then it's like, okay. Like when it first happened, I was like, "Oh, that's funny. That's cool." And then I just
Yeah.
lost like probably 3 or 4 times the first time I tried the first boss, because I just could not get a handle on the way things control. And I know that there's other games like this where like your projection, your forward momentum just happens with or without you, and then you can slow down just slightly by pulling back on the joystick. That's not new, but there's something about the way that it's, yes, I think it's also a combination of the camera, but something about the way that the momentum works and the speed that you're at, and
Yeah.
the lack of tight turns that you can make, like it's just not good. And I hate that they did it over and over and over again. Like one or
Yeah.
two times I can forgive it, but it's just this, like I dreaded doing the bosses, because I didn't know that they were all like that. When I beat the second one, I was like, God, I hope that's the last one. Nope. It happened again and again.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is just
I
stupid.
I really wish they did something different for every boss. Like if they did this one time, which I think it makes actually the most sense with the one that's the hardest, Fatty Roswell. I think
Right.
slipping and sliding because his level has the cheese.
It's got food related. Like
Yeah,
he shoots ketchup at you. Like
yeah.
it
I
makes
think
sense.
his made the most sense.
Yeah.
Plus, he's riding the burger, which he's an alien. It's a ship. Like it just makes total sense.
Yeah.
Right now, we're watching a goldfish in a bowl ride a cat on mud. Why couldn't they give us something funny like in the old Earthworm Jim games? to beat you do usually have to fight number 4, but to beat Bob the Goldfish, you literally push him off a table and he just
Oh
that's
my
it.
god, I remember that. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's funny.
So even
Um
this video I'm watching, when I'm talking about, like, when we're talking about the repetitiveness of it and everything. So this is supposed to be like a video of first try, this person on YouTube beat every boss the first try, right? That's what it is, right? This one, the Bob the Goldfish one, goes from 14 and a half minutes to 22 minutes.
22.
And
Yeah.
that's like not a speed run per se, but it's a run that is pretty successful and not as close to quote unquote flawless as you can get. And I'm sorry, it's insane that it's that long, you know? And there's no way I
It
did
is.
it in
They're
that
way
time.
too long.
It's way too long.
Yeah.
They all overstay their
And
welcome.
yeah, for sure. Um so I think we've reached the point,
Oh wait,
the
Earthworm Kim.
unforgivable sin.
I'm pulling up Earthworm Kim.
Okay, Earthworm Kim.
Earthworm
You
Kim
gotta
shows
watch.
up.
Just watch it.
Watch the intro,
Just watch it
everybody.
play out.
Find us on YouTube. Watch the
Yeah,
intro.
it's hilarious. Jim's coming out. He's
Coming
all
in.
fierce. He's in the water. He's coming out on a pig. He's riding that pig. He's looking around for the enemy. And what approaches from the shadows?
What is this supposed to be? The thing
It is a dark version of Earthworm Jim.
Oh, Dark Pig.
No, it's Earthworm Kim.
Oh no, it's Kim. It's
Just
so ridiculous. Like, he's sort of like purple pink color. He's got a wig on and earrings.
it pretty much looks exactly like
Yeah.
Earthworm Jim, muscles and all, just with a big wig on and slight color difference.
Yeah, and a huge huge eyelashes, and like it's ridiculous. Okay. The ultimate sin, sir. I am still on the edge of my seat, and as is everybody
All right.
else that's listening and watching. What is it? We've covered so much that annoys the hell out of us. What could it possibly be?
Yeah. The ultimate sin that made me do something stupid. Okay? And that ultimate sin is something we've actually experienced together before.
Uh-oh.
And we both had the same reaction. And that ultimate sin is you beat the game, you beat all the bosses, you get the majority of collectibles,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a credits roll. And you go, what's going on? You go to the main area and you see Peter the puppy, and you talk to him, and he says, collect all of the udders and come back to me. The unforgivable sin, the same as Jet Force Gemini. Collect all the tribals. Collect all the udders. Okay? The udders. There's 73, I think, and a 74th one. But it requires you to collect all of the udders. Thank the Lord you don't have to collect all the marbles. But
Oh
the
my
marbles
God.
would be
Yeah.
easier than the udders, to be honest.
I think so too. Yeah.
So I did my due diligence. I said my mantra. I said, I don't quit. I don't run. I will be Hokage. And I collected every udder. And I was on the grandma level. And I needed 2 udders. And this is, when they say 12 hours, they probably mean bosses, like to beat the 4th boss and don't count the true ending. I don't know. Because
Maybe.
I had to go back and I was defeated, man. I was like, man, I really want to finish this. And granted, we could have extended it. I was like, I already gave myself the extra day. I was like, Dave, can we do it? Can we do it a day later so I can have time to finish this? I really gave it the old college try, but I just couldn't. I couldn't. I had 2 udders and they were just lingering over me and I was trying to do it. So I tried to enter some Game Shark stuff on my EverDrive, right?
Do it.
And just for that last level, I'm like, just give me those last 2 udders.
Yeah.
So I did that, and now it seems I can't finish the game
Oh my.
on my save. It says I have 7 of 6 udders on the last level, and will not trigger this last boss fight.
Oh my
So-
God.
I'm gonna have to either do it again, which is not happening, figure out an EverDrive thing that'll get me at least to the point where I can just finish it,
Right.
which is probably most likely what's going to happen. I know what happens, but I was so defeated, man, because games requiring you to collect 100% tick me off. I love collecting things. DK64 is one of my favorite games, the biggest collectathons, the king of collectathons.
Literally the king of
Okay?
collectathons. Yeah, yeah.
And you don't have to collect everything to beat the
Right.
game.
Right.
Man.
It's totally fine if there are elements of get the majority, get the vast majority, get just enough to get you to the next world, the next boss,
Yeah.
whatever. And if you want to be a completionist, go for it. That's
Exactly.
totally fine. It just, even if it's 95% of the stuff, you don't hold back an ending. Not that there's some deep story at play here, but you don't hold back an ending to a story just because.
Not at
It
all.
just feels like a sad excuse. That's really all it is.
I
And
say give a 70% collection rate, give a 30% buffer,
right.
and if you want to entice people to finish and collect everything, give them some special bonus at the end.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, another ending or some other item or
Yeah,
character or something. Yeah. Yeah.
something different. Like
Yeah.
maybe if you get all the udders, you could play as Earthworm Kim throughout the game.
Yes.
That would be funny.
That'd be great.
That'd
be great. Maybe
But
some of the dialogue changes because you're Kim instead of Jim. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like just something
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like something. I'm with you. So that's completely dumb. I didn't get anywhere close to being 100%, so I didn't even think I was gonna try.
I was at 98%, man.
That's insane.
I had almost all the marbles as well. I had one level, I think I had 97 marbles.
And that's all you had
want
left.
to go back and finish, and that's all I had left. But the marbles were easy to collect.
They're not as
never
bad.
struggled with them.
No, yeah, they're not as bad. I mean, there's a few that I didn't finish for sure, but like they're not as bad because they're kind of like the musical notes in Banjo-Kazooie, I would say, because like
Yeah, I'd say they might even be easier. They're just kind of everywhere.
they're kind of everywhere. There's 100. I mean, there are also in other games, but they're not in like outrageous places. The problem with the udders is that there's a lot of jumping through hoops in order to get just one, and sometimes jumping through those hoops takes forever. And because of all the elements that we've talked about, it tends to take a bunch of tries, and it's like, well, this is just taking me 20 minutes to get one thing when it should take me, I don't know, 5.
Yeah,
So,
it's not clear. Udders are not clear. Like you
do
have
kind
to
of
figure out
stumble.
the stupidest things.
Yeah, you kind of stumble upon it.
There's another
Please,
really bad sin
please do
this
tell.
game does, which is I beat it, okay, but it was very annoying.
Mm-hmm.
There is a game, like it's a mini game sort of where you have to herd grandmas into a gate,
Yeah,
and they watch television, but you have to herd all of them at once, okay? And for viewers that know me and viewers that have played Donkey Kong 64, it's Beaver Bother.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right.
It's basically Beaver Bother, right? But you need to beat it.
Yeah.
It forces you to beat it because you need to get another. And not only does it do it once, you have to do it twice. You have to do it in the one half of the Western world, and then you have to do it in the second half of the Western world.
And just like the bosses, it makes no sense to do it that way. It doesn't make any sense. Like, come on. Earthworm Jim is ridiculous. Come up with another ridiculous idea. No one's going to care if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Nothing in this game makes sense. That's part of the charm of what this character is. Just do something stupid.
Yeah.
The world's stupid. The character's stupid. Great. Do it.
Yeah. It's a like, to be fair, it's a funny idea.
Right.
To herd grandmas into a gate and watch TV. But there's so many missed opportunities too. Like Earthworm Jim has a whip attack. You could whip them to make them move. You don't.
No.
You run behind them and then they move at awkward angles and you have to somehow get them all to be in one area, and then you run forward and push them in. But you always inevitably get one that just like last second goes like this and goes around the gate, and then you have to walk around and then they all move. And it's like you can't just get them in the gate. It's like you get one in the gate and you go get another. that one will come out of the gate and start walking around again. It was very frustrating, and I did it twice, and that was what killed me. I beat both of those grandma moments, and when I beat the second one, I was like, I want to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, like there's a lot of unfortunate moments like that in this game. And I think that's what we're running into, right? So the ideas
Yep.
are there. They're not executed very well. And there's a lot of repeat ideas that shouldn't be there because, like we just said, have fun with it. It's Earthworm Jim, like, come on,
Yep.
just do it. Before we give our final sort of like mini review type thoughts on it, I'm going to pull up, I'm going to close this video and I'm going to pull up the issue of Nintendo Power that had a breakdown of the first couple of stages, had a overview map of some of the stages as well, and also had, coincidentally enough, Donkey Kong 64 on the cover. So it is a very jam-packed issue here. This is issue 126, November of 1999, so the month that this game came out. I'm going to go to the back of Nintendo Power of this, and I'm going to read a little snippet from Earthworm Jim 3D rating and grading that they gave it. Now, I think overall Nintendo Power is, pretty much like rah, Nintendo's the best. It's kind of like a little bit of a advertisement for Nintendo. But Earthworm Jim 3D has an overall rating of 6.8. And,
Okay.
that's probably high, but we'll get to that. And these are some of the points that they have. So play control, big part of what we've been talking about. In play control, it says it's loose, but most players should feel comfortable performing Jim's wide array of fun moves in short order. Wide is also very generous.
Yeah.
The real trouble is the poor camera control that will leave players feeling disoriented and out of position. So
That's fair.
it's fair. And also I think the reason why something like that is noteworthy is because, like I mentioned, Nintendo Power is, for the most part, really props up their products, right? It wasn't necessarily a 100% true like rating system. It was very much like, this is Nintendo, this is our stuff, buy our stuff in some ways. That's sort of the vibe that it gets. It's fun. It's fun to have and read. I have a bunch of issues. I love it. I think it's great memory and nostalgia and everything. But the fact that it points it out in that way is pretty clear that it was an issue even then. And then finally, some of the comments from Scott. The camera doesn't always do what it should, but overall, it was fun to play. Kyle says the camera ruins the whole experience, and Sonia says it's fun and wacky. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Those comments are fair. So they give it a 6.8. Jiggy, if you wanted to give it a score, if you wanted to give it a recommend or not, where would you stand with Earthworm Jim 3D?
I'd recommend it. I feel like people hate on it a lot.
Mm.
And it's one of those that I see a lot of the flaws. Okay. And it's not great. Don't get me wrong. It's okay. It's okay. A 6.8 is a little high,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't dramatically far from that. I mean, I guess in my scale, I would probably say like a 5.5.
Okay.
I think a 5 being a solid like middle route. I think the charm and the characters bring it up to that little half point for me.
Right.
I could see why someone wouldn't like it as much, but it honestly it plays fine. There's things that you see that you're like, man, this is great. I think it could be something special, and then it just doesn't deliver.
Right.
Okay, and
Right.
it just kind of stays mid the whole thing, and it's playable. You can get through it. It's hard, but you can get through it. But yeah,
So that's something.
pretty mid game.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a little bit lower than that. It's probably going to be just below a 5, maybe a 4.5 or a 5, I think. And I just think that like all the stuff we talked about with how frustrating a lot of the elements would be, how much time it took to sometimes do the most simplest things,
Yeah,
just really irks me. Like I want to get through this. I want to play this whole game. I want to experience the charm and the goofiness of what Earthworm Jim is. And it feels like you're constantly running into a wall against that. They're almost like trying to prevent you from experiencing that in a way, which is so shitty. And the camera at times, like you said, you get a handle on it a little bit, but it's just the fact that it is constantly a worry and constantly a mechanic when it doesn't need to be really knocks it down a lot. I appreciate that hold on to R, go behind Jim stuff. Only works really in open areas, or works well in open areas, which only happens halfway, half of the game, I would say. And some of the unforgiving aspects of it are traversal, and some of it are enemies or what the enemies shoot out at you. And I just think that really did not need to be there. So it's good. I think it's worth a try. But I think if you get to a point where you start feeling frustrated with it, I think it's okay to just stop. I think you've got the gist of what the game's going to be. So
I think what I would say, and it was funny as you were talking, I'm like, I think it's one of those games, just don't finish it. And I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate to say it, but you need to make the effort though to get past Fatty Roswell and play the horror levels.
Yes.
Because the horror levels are fun, and Professor Monkey for a Head is pretty fun. Once you get to the Western worlds, that's where I'd cut it.
I agree. And that's
you don't need to play anything.
And along the way you'll probably hit some frustrating spots for sure. You can skip over some and go to the next world and maybe pick and choose sort of where the order you do things in, which I think is kind of good too. But which is what, maybe rough 60% of the way through the game, I would say, is that.
Yeah, maybe, probably more like 70.
Yeah, 70.
It's pretty. You got 2 worlds after that and another boss, and then you'd have to collect all the others.
Yeah. So
and the horror worlds, there's like a secret world within that. So I think there's 2 secret worlds. There's like 4 horror worlds.
Isn't that like Disco one sort of like a secret thing in a way?
Yeah.
And then
also
Boogie
Nights.
Yeah.
Poltergeist 2, and then there's like it's like Deathworm or Dead Wormed Up or something like that.
Yeah.
That one's the worst one.
Yeah.
The others, Poltergeist 1, Poltergeist 2, and Boogie Nights are all fun.
They're fun.
All 3 of those, I loved all of them.
Yeah. The Boogie one I was like so on, but I agree that they're worth
It's
playing.
short.
They're worth playing. And it is all of those are actually probably short because they're all like worlds within a world kind of thing. So there's
a secret bonus world, by the way.
Oh, snap. I did not know that.
But you have to collect all the marbles to get it.
Oh, so it's not happening.
So,
okay.
But it plays back. They did do what we said. They gave you a reward for collecting 100%.
Oh.
But they just didn't cap you out at finishing the game for the udders.
Oh, I see.
They require you to get all the udders. They don't require you to get all the marbles, but they do give you a reward if you get all the marbles. And I don't know what that reward is. I'm going to have to look it up.
Okay.
It's in the horror world. There's a door, and it says you have to get all the marbles to open that door.
Oh.
And it's some sort of bonus level.
All marbles, Earthworm, Gem, 3D, reward?
Question mark?
Question mark? Obtain when a special mission is completed. Marbles, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I can't find it exactly. But, I think, the game bumps into all these things. Yeah, there's ideas. The execution is not great in a lot of ways. Again, worth a try. If you have the time, put in two-thirds of the game. But you're right. I think that's the cutoff point. You've got the gist of the game. You've run into enough annoyances at that point. It's okay to call it quits. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
So, okay that we played it. Not ecstatic about the final product, but hey, now you could say that you've completed all of the Earthworm Jim world, or as close as you could in this one, and you've gone.
I'll get it. I'll finish it.
You'll get there. Okay, all right. We'll have to get a report back or something, or watch you online on Twitter and stuff to sort of.
I did it.
Yeah, you just your face going, I did it, and like Earthworm Jim in the corner, and that's it, like nothing else. Like 3 seconds. Know. Yeah, you'll know. If you know. If you know. One of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Earthworm Jim 3D.
Earthworm Jim 3D, everybody. With that said, we have a couple of games coming up that we will be letting everybody know what they are coming across in social media over the next couple of months. We're going to try and plan ahead and get a couple of things at least, in line of what we're going to play next. So stay tuned for that. That'll be at Remember 64 Show or yourself at Jiggylookback. We talked about Earthworm Jim. We talked about that you played through them and you did a video. You have a lot of really big and awesome videos out right now, including the Earthworm Jim one. What else is out there, man? Because
Oh man.
there's at least
Oh
one.
man.
There's at least one major one out there that I feel like we should probably talk about, or at least mention.
Okay. Two things happened, okay? So, first off, I put out a video. I was actually talking about Donkey Kong 64 on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a thing and I was like, ah. And our buddy from the Still Loading podcast saw that tweet and he contacted me and was like, hey, I'm going to write an article about Donkey Kong 64 and the collectathon genre. I'm like, that's cool. I was like, I love that. And then I started talking about it. And then I'm like, man, I need to make another video about Donkey Kong 64. and I'm just like, I just need to defend it a little bit.
Sure.
Because I just see, And so I did. And little did I know, 20,000 views later, that kind of went mini viral. And
Hell yeah.
And it's still growing. I mean, it literally, like at the time of this recording, it hasn't even been out a week. It's been out a couple days, 3 days or 4 days or whatever.
Beautiful.
But I kind of got pressured in. I don't know if you've seen this one. I got pressured in. I've been planning this video for a long time, and I've mentioned it on the podcast, but mapping the rare universe. This was my most ambitious video.
Mm-hmm.
It was scheduled to release on Friday, kind of let Donkey Kong sit and milk it out a little bit. But we had a Nintendo Direct today. And this is Wednesday, the 21st that we're recording this.
February, yeah.
And so you see how fast Dave gets these out.
Yeah, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, yeah.
We had a Nintendo Direct and a bunch of rare stuff was announced. And people on my Discord were like, hey,
where's the
you
rare?
should really just put this video out because rare is a hot topic right now.
Sure.
And when is it ever a hot topic like this? It's like people are going to be searching for it. Put it out. So I'm like, I'm at work and I'm like, I need to put it out. So I went on my lunch and I set it as a premiere. And yeah, it's been a day. No, I'm not even a day. It's been out a couple hours.
Yeah, it's been 12 hours yet. We're
sitting at about 3 something thousand.
Yeah.
So it's on track to be even more popular than the Donkey Kong video, which I'm super stoked about. It's starting a bit of a war on the comments, but I love that. It's super cool. I'm super excited about it. It's growing fast. I'm just blown away.
It's great, man. Honestly, it's great. Like I've said before in the past, this isn't just because we're buds and because you're on the show and all that. Like it's good content. It is an in-depth look at a lot of these games, an interesting look at it, a way that probably either hasn't been looked at before or hasn't for a very long time. Revisiting things is always great. And it's not just these two. You get a bunch of that stuff, right? It's all across the board. So,
I had you on. We did a really cool versus video.
Yep.
Where we compared Mario Kart 64 to Diddy Kong Racing, kind of decided which one was better. I think you probably know. But we did it, and because of these videos that I've been putting out, that video shot up like an extra 500 views so far.
Even better.
And it's everything's gonna climb. Like, it's super cool. I'm seeing a jump in everything, and gonna have you back on my stuff pretty soon. I'm gonna have to do another follow up.
Yeah, we'll pick another big couple of titles, and I'll try to piss more people off if I can. I'm fine.
Yeah, perfect.
With that. Yeah,
I love it.
Perfect, love it. That's Jiggylookback on YouTube. Also the same name across social media. And for here at Remember 64 Show. Also on Patreon, I just want to say, if you've made it this far into the episode, I want to say I'm going to try and do a couple of new things on Patreon. I'm going to put out free content on that. I'm going to put out Substack and things like that, are sort of like mini blog newsletter type things. Every once in a while, I'm going to write something down and just do it either in a really short video, or I'm going to do it in a text form where I'm just going to talk about something within the gaming world. Doesn't necessarily always have to be retro, that I'm playing, have played, a thought that I have. It could be about like the Nintendo Direct, for example, things like that. And it's going to be something that's a little bit more bite-sized, and I'm going to have it free so that everybody can see it, and then also have an easier access and connection to the stuff that is behind the $1, $2, or $3 or $5 paywall. Small paywalls anyways, but episodes early on patreon.com/remember64 show, videos that are out that you won't find on the YouTube channel, and some extra content as well. So that's going to keep growing and keep doing some more stuff. And also I've been trying to put out some pre-episode chats on that as well. We had a little bit of one in this episode. I put up one about the robot on rocket robot on wheels as well. That's Patreon exclusive, so you can find that there. But other than that, that is what's going to end us off here this time on Remember 64. Jiggy, thanks for coming on this adventure once again through Earthworm Jim 3D. This was an interesting journey.
I will say that the pre-show chats, I didn't know he was doing that. So you get a little bit of unfilteredness.
That's the idea, man. Idea.
I'm pretty calm. I'm pretty calm and collected while we're doing these podcasts, but you get passionate about stuff.
Hey, man, that's all part of it. And that's one of the reasons why I want to do that other stuff too, the sort of like mini text or short video stuff too, is because I will do those completely unfiltered and just record it, put it up, write it, put it up. You know, you'll just get the stream of consciousness type of thing. So,
well, you know what? I need to do one thing before we go.
Please do.
And that thing is Earthworm Jim, a superhero worm. Okay, I don't know the rest of the song, but I just know that's the way the cartoon goes. And I sing in like every single one of the podcast episodes that I'm in. So I had to do something.
It's a must. It's a must.
Really, I had to do it.
You had
People
to
are
do
expecting
it.
It's from me.
You had to do it. All right, Jiggy and everybody, thank you so much for joining us once again. This will do it for Remember 64. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you next time. Goodbye.